Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a very pleasant night here, my pack, and welcome back once more to Vega Conflict, and it's time to talk about the Contagions that are part of the Red Faction for Tier 15. And first off, I want to talk about the fittings a little bit, because they have the most firepower out of each of the vessels, because the others only have 3 weapons apiece, 3 defense slots. All of them share 2 modifiers though, and then the same skin and trigger on the back, and same goes for this one. Except for it has 4 armor slots and it has a light shielding built into the armor. But as for the fittings, all level 1 stuff for now, because again, I fell behind a little bit and I need to catch up, so I should probably be farming right now, but I'd rather get caught up on videos rather than farm a little bit more. As for specials, or modifiers, I'll go over the stats of the Contagion first, then I'll go over the general fitting that I'm going to go for mine, so if anyone wants to copy if it works out for me. So starting off with a 2-hour flat repair time, it's the same as the other two, not a surprise there. It is an assault class vessel, and they are artillery backbone of any fleet able to engage their targets from distance. They rain down destruction on the enemy fleets with high damage output, however they lack the defenses of other classes. Which is pretty clear because the others have 3 or 4 armor slots or defense slots, and then this one only has 2. But what it lacks in that regard, it makes up for in range and firepower because, as you saw, 5 weapons. Its effective range of 0 to 5,400 means that it is the highest for now, at least until the others start getting theirs, which will be... we're getting new ones every 3 months, I think? 2 months, 3 months? I'll have to look back at the release stuff to see what it is. But 200,000 hit points at level 1, and it follows the same rule as the Raptors and the other ones, that they get health through their mark upgrades rather than through armor you put on them. The only thing you can affect is the defense value by putting on wards in this case. Weighing at 18,000 tons, it is the middle ground for them. The Aegis is actually the heaviest. Not a surprise there because it's supposed to be the tank class. Cargo is completely uniform across the board at 3,500,000. Yep. Speed is 550 meters per second forward, rotation of 40 degrees per second, and a strafe of 450 meters per second, and a reverse of 250 meters per second. So it has the highest reverse speed, the highest... Actually, that's all that it has. It's just highest reverse speed. Everything else is mediocre. But that's fine, because it does its job and it does it just fine. Sector speed of 600 astronomical units per hour. Something we can all agree is just normal at this point in the game. Modifiers, infected aggression, we'll talk about that one last, just like what we did with the Raptor with its breakthrough. So Spectre, Retrocider, Retrosyn of 400% damage increase, so it just destroys them. Blood Rebellion damage increase to 50%, so it eats the Blood Rebellion up too, and a Resurgence of 25%, which if I'm not mistaken is higher than the average. Yeah, 20. So that's kind of weird, and it feels like PvP stuff should be better involved at the later mark upgrades as that goes up, because you have a higher value regardless. Resistance-wise, you're looking at 75% across the board to Spectre, Retrociders, and Retrosyn, 50% against Vega Alliance, which is previous faction. It's interesting that you have Vega Alliance but not the Nightfall. Must have been an oversight. Then you have 75% energy, kinetic, and explosive resistance, plasma, blight, blood, alien. And then as for the new damage types, you have 50% resistance against the one it's supposed to counter, and 25% against its own damage type. Now, what is infected aggression? As the Contagion attacks, its infected aggression begins to charge once it's in aggressive state, boost the strafe speed, and its weapons applied debilitate. Alright, so it moves 15% faster in reverse. We'll take a look at the debilitate in a minute. Triggers a 75% charge rate and has a 5% attack charge rate, 0% defense charge rate. Has a 10-second cooldown. And it'll take 5 seconds to drain. Well, it'll drain after 5 seconds. It'll instantly drain at that. So there is no delay. It's just the minute that it's out of combat for 5 seconds, it's completely gone. And it has a 10-second cooldown before you can start charging it up again, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. And a 20% strafe in strafe speed increase, you'd expect that to be up here with the other movement increase. And the debilitate is only a 10% increase, and it's a 5% duration, but it's got no cooldown or anything like that, so each time it's hitting, it's going to be refreshing that duration, so they're just going to be taking 10% more damage overall. Not bad. On to the good part, and that is the weapons and specials. First off, the ward power of only 10% is far weaker than that of the defense one they get of 25%, and they do not have a recharging one. So unlike the Vega, the ward, it does not recharge, as you'll see in a minute. It just gets eaten up and that's it. It's gone when it's gone. Increased piercing value for their weapon. I don't see a reason to be using that because most of the time I've been singling stuff out, and I've actually been using them in the mixed fleet, as you saw before. I'll explain why later on. And then a damage per second boost of 5%. Okay, so I can see this one and this one being the most valuable. And then as for the defense, you have the wards, and as I said, they do not get to recharge. So theirs is just, they're supposed to be copying the Umbra, but they don't do a good job of it at all. Because this one recharges, and all you have to do is break combat, and then you get to start recharging. And for now, they have the fastest vessels, so they can easily run out of the fights and then recharge and then go back in. So, slightly poor design philosophy with that one. And I don't think that there is any way to regenerate the wards or the shielding of the bioorganic one either. So, two factions lose out on regeneration, while the third one has regeneration, so poor design there. Weighing in at the exact same of 2,350, okay, so there's no difference. It has defense of 90%, same as the other two. Okay, the other one. So this one's just a light shield. Defense of 90%, 25% reduction against their own damage type, and 50% against the whatever the green ones are called this time around. I'm not going to learn their names. That's going to be a running trend until the end of this tier. I will only know the blue ones as Vega. But you're looking at 405,230 points for the level 1, and level 2 is more than a 10% increase at 458,735. And weight is uniform as well at 2,525. Defense doesn't change, reduction doesn't change, reduction doesn't change. And it requires the arms lab, the tech lab 4, and it's only for them and tier 15. Now, as for their weapon, which is the final one, then I'll get on to talking about the other stuff I want to talk about. You're looking at 23,250 damage per second, so extremely good for them, especially with that range. But where it falls short is in the projectile speed. They are stupidly easy to dodge, and if you're actually actively playing, you can dodge them fairly easily, even when you're playing as the Aegis, because I've seen quite a few times when I was just watching people fight that it would fire, and then the player using the Aegis would just turn slightly away, and they would just miss. Because I don't think they're homing at all. Either that, or it's a visual bug, and it is hitting, and it's just not registering or server-related. Which wouldn't be a surprise, because the servers always seem just one step away from crashing. But weighing in at 2,350 tons, it's uniform along with all the other weapons. With a range of 1,500 to 5,400, it is arguably the best because it has the lowest minimum range. Okay, never mind. It has the second lowest minimum range, but the highest range for now. And it has no piercing value at all, so what was the point of this one then? If it increases the amount of piercing, but the weapon itself doesn't have piercing built in, wouldn't that not affect it at all? I'm glad I don't use that special because it seems kind of pointless and redundant. And it requires Arm Labs 14, and again, it's locked to the Contagion. Okay, now on to the next part. So, who loves classic content in Vega? Because I know that I do. I love playing around with the Rapture Cruisers that are way down here. Give it a minute to glitch out and load in like 10 years. Who loves the Rapture Cruisers and who loves the Osprey Frigates? Anyone else? Anyone? Well, if you're paying attention to the channel recently, I asked and started a poll about 2 days ago at this point. Well, less than 2 days ago. And I asked specifically, if anyone would want to see more reskins similar to that of the Rapture with the Vega, because it's literally just a copy of the Apocrypha, but reskinned, and it's got no markup grades. It sadly doesn't have a different set of modifiers, unlike on the Osprey, where if you strap thrusters to it, it boosts the strength of the thrusters, which is something you don't normally get with frigates, because they focus on other bonuses through their markup grades. And my suggestion was more or less to see if people would play around in PvP specifically with older content to earn stuff like the Rapture blueprints, the Osprey frigate blueprints, just have other reskins of the old ones that they have no markup grade, so there's no grind after you get them. You just build them and fit them and then have fun with them. If they have slightly different stats, and then have modifiers akin to what the Osprey has. And it'll be for things that make sense. So in the case of frigates, stick with the thruster boost because it's nice. In the case of the Rapture, I don't know what I would give it. I don't know what I would give copies of, say, the Corinthian Cruiser, the Heretic Cruiser, or anything like that for a copy of them. But I would say not to go with a copy of the markup grade bonuses, but try and do something that makes sense for the ships, if that makes sense to everyone. It's also why I asked in that poll for suggestions as well, because I wanted to more or less make an idea that people would be able to play around with, have some fun, beat each other up, in space of course, and to be rewarded for it. And it's something that the company itself could make some money off of, because if people are beating each other up with low tier stuff, it's going to be little pennies here and there that they can pay for their repairs, because 70% resurgence is like 8 minutes of repair time. That's 1 coin repair per ship, so you get 6 per ship and you have 6 coins. That's 6 cents gone. And that's however many times they want to use it. And as a lot of people have been paying attention and even hitting some of them recently, I leave out these little fleets. I'll randomly take them and I'll put them out in open space, and normally I'll put them right over Toxic Bait's outpost, his base, stuff like that, and we'll hit each other from time to time. And he's one of my clan members, one of my alliance members, and good friend at this point. But yeah, I want to know if anyone would like to see more stuff like the Rapture Cruiser and the Osprey frigates moving forwards, if we can get the developers to see that it could potentially make them money. Could be something fun for everybody, because it's not extremely expensive, unlike other things like the freaking deals that they do that cost, what, $100 for some of them? Is there... What would it be under, or is there nothing going on at the moment? I don't think there's a deal at the moment, unless it's one of the ones that popped up that I dispose of when I open up the game every single time. But that's all that I wanted to talk about, was I wanted to bring up the Contagion, its stuff, and then bring up that. And I'll share a link, well actually I'll leave this in the description. The direct link to the poll will be in the description. So if you want to go ahead and vote like what a few other people have, because I think it's like 14 or 15 votes so far, it hasn't caught a lot of traction, but that's because, if I'm not mistaken, YouTube posts don't exactly have notifications, so you just have to keep an eye on the channel. So this is a great way to bring more attention to it. Now, as for fittings, I was thinking when I upgrade these to level 2, I'm going to stick with this one. I'm going to do... I'm going to go with the damage per second increase. So it'll be the ward increase and the damage per second increase, just for more damage output on top of what it already does. And then for Vega, since I'm talking about them too, it'll be deflector and ward damage, because I don't see myself using the mobility. As for the Aegis, I'll save that until its video and then I'll talk about it. But as you can probably tell, that video probably won't have to wait too long, so I'll probably bring it out here in the next day or so with how quickly this one released from the last video. That being potentially within an hour and a half or 2 hours from the last video. Okay, I've more or less talked your ears off for the past nearly 15 minutes. Even after cutting this down, it'll be still close to 15 minutes. That's going to be it for now, everybody. I hope this gave you all stuff to think about and little fittings to try out and whatnot. And especially things to consider when it comes to classic content. Especially when it comes to Vega, Vega Security, the Minor Rebellion, just the good old stuff. Definitely go over to the poll, Leave any suggestions you have. Even if you don't want to vote, just leave a suggestion for some of the stats that could be on some of the copied vessels and stuff like that, because I definitely would like to see them. And if it gets enough attention, what I was thinking of doing was running it before... I was thinking of running it before the development team and seeing what they think. That's going to be it, everybody. I'm done talking now. Let's get you all on your way. So, be safe out there, happy hunting, and as always, I'll see you later.